If you have a trust, trust funding is one of the most important parts of estate planning and estate administration. I'm Zach Anderson of Valley Estate and Elder Law, and I'm going to talk you through what it means to fund a trust and why it's so important. Funding a trust essentially boils down to coordinating your assets with your estate plan, especially if it involves one or more trusts. The first thing we look at when we're coordinating our assets with our estate plan is, are we putting assets into the trust during our lifetime, like right now or tomorrow while we're living? Or are those assets going to go into the trust only upon our death? And I have a little note here. If you're married, we want to specify and analyze, should that trust be funded upon your death or upon the death of you and your spouse, no matter who goes first. So these are some sub-issues under coordinating our assets with our estate plan. Is, are we funding assets into the trust during our lifetime or rather upon our death? Why would this make a difference? Take IRAs, for example. Whether to fund an IRA into a trust is a very delicate analysis that we go through with just about all of our clients. And when we do fund IRAs into trusts or fund trusts with an IRA, it's almost always going to be upon death rather than during lifetime, so as to avoid tax consequences. What might be something that is deeded into the trust upon life? I sort of gave it away with my phrasing there. Oftentimes real property, like your home, can go into the name of the trust during your lifetime, and generally that doesn't have any adverse consequences, although this is state specific, looking at you, California, from what I've heard. In Alabama, the consequences for deeding property into a trust are rather minimal. There is some homework you have. I walk you through it. It's not nearly as bad as some other states. So coordinating assets with our trust and our estate plan, that's what funding a trust is. What are some of the tools we use to do that? Well, gave this one away. Deeds. This is for real property, real estate. We might use an LLC. Family limited partnerships were something that was used a long time ago. They're not nearly as widely used as they are now. LLCs might be owned by a trust or something like that, a tool that we use especially for business owners for reasons that are probably pretty intuitive. We might assign things to the trust, probably not a vehicle the way I do things, but we want to make sure that's coordinated with our trust too. We might assign personal property, jewelry, guns, things like that, to a trust, again, either during lifetime or upon death. Usually those are okay to fund into trust during your lifetime. And we might use beneficiary designations as a tool here as well. And that goes back to what I was saying with IRAs. How do you make an IRA go into a trust upon death? Well, you use a fairly delicately crafted beneficiary designation to do it. And we walk through with our clients exactly how to do that, if it's even appropriate. The first question to ask is, what do we want to do with all of these assets? Do we want to go in trust during lifetime, upon death? Whose death? Do we even need a trust at all? So this is a really customizable analysis for each client, each family. We haven't even talked about each set of assets and things like that. One quick note, this is technically not a part of trust funding, but we always want to make sure our trustees and our agents are coordinated as well. Sometimes I'll see estate plans where somebody's agent under a power of attorney, like a financial power of attorney, is not the same as the trustee of the revocable living trust for the client if they become incapacitated and cannot serve as trustee. Those are very similar roles, and there may be a reason why they're different agents, but I would, at a minimum, want to talk through that and make sure we're realizing what we're doing. So that's a little bit about trust funding. This is something that really depends on each client, each family situation. I have some other videos about, things that you probably don't want to put in your will and things like that. Those are fairly universal, and I wrote those videos and shot them accordingly, knowing that. Funding a trust, this is what it is, And I made this video because I get so many questions on it. As far as actually doing this, it's not as formulaic. It just depends on assets and family structure. I hope you found this video helpful.